Welcome everyone to another episode of the Will of Rock podcast.
I'm Will.
I'm Rock.
And before we get started today, we wanted to show you our brand new logo. Thanks to the artist Rachel Munoz. She goes on Instagram by Lavoz.expression. That's LAVOZ.expression, spelled perfectly fine, expression. Thank you very much for the logo. It's
So
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So today we want to go straight into our comments on YouTube. So let's just go over our YouTube comments and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, cool. So the first one is by Richard Martin. He writes, "Hey guys, great post. I think Brock will give John Jones a bigger challenge and I don't see Jones knocking Brock out. I see stoppage going to John Jones through a great technical fight."
If the fight were to happen, that is the right. That's what I would call it. That's actually a good call out by Richard Martin. But unfortunately, Richard, you guys will find out real soon too. But John Jones had just been caught with steroids for the Cormier fight, which, if everything is 100% official, which we assume it is at this point, he will get stripped from his belt, and the belt will go down to Cormier.
Yeah.
So this is good. It's very interesting.
Right. Not to mention, John Jones will be out of the UFC for 4 years because if you get caught with any sort of substance, especially him, that's his second time. He's not going to be in the UFC for another 4 more years. So, as much as I wanted to break down that fight, it's not going to happen. Also, didn't Brock Lesnar win the champion in WWE?
Yeah, he just retained his title in SummerSlam. Yeah. So the chances of Brock even hitting the octagon is going to take forever because not that he's still a champion in WWE, and who knows what his contract demands are on that as well. I don't see this fight, honestly, ever happening.
Yeah.
And if it does happen 4 years from now, I don't think we would care. We would be that interested in that fight.
Because you got to understand, Brock Lesnar will be irrelevant coming into the UFC. I mean, the only fight that makes sense because of the hype that was going on.
Yeah, but it's still, but think about it. How old is Brock going to be? Right. Brock is already 41 years of age, you know?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, age plays a big factor. And then he also asked another question. He said, question, Ronda Rousey versus who? Who would be Ronda Rousey's competition right now? She's been out for such a long time. I wouldn't know who to put in.
But the interesting part about it is that Ronda Rousey's always been a big draw, right? Who are you gonna put her? Are you gonna put her in the main? Is she still main event worthy? I personally don't think so. But she still, to this day, has such a huge following that there might be enough hype to bring her back in as the main event. I don't think not only is it not right for MMA, but I also don't think it's right for Ronda to take a main event at this point in her career. She took 2 losses and they weren't like a close fight. They were like 100%. You should not be in this octagon fight. You know, who's next for her?
If she comes back, who's next?
You know what? You know what I really would like to see is Kat Zingano versus her. Why? Because Kat Zingano is so freaking official, and the first fight that they had together, it was tricky. Now, I'm not saying that Ronda. If you remember, Ronda did within 15 or 14 seconds, caught her in a freaking armbar, which was so phenomenally done. And I don't want to take away from that for Ronda, which tells you her skill level too. It's not like if she lost to just scrubby fighters either way, right. But also to say that Kat Zingano didn't get that opportunity to see what would have happened if they would have stand up.
Yeah,
could Kat Zingano would have been the first one to expose her?
The only thing that makes it very compelling is that it's obvious that Kat Zingano is not going to go in rushing the same way she did the first time. So that will right then and there that will be a little different. The fight's going to go much different now because Kat Zingano's stand-up game is fucking serious. Yeah. So yes, Richard, I would like to think that making Ronda Rousey versus Kat Zingano, which is a really good one because I didn't have her in mind, is the best fight for her if she comes back. And
that should be promoted as the first fight in pay-per-view to get people to really watch that UFC event, or as the co-main event, just to still show that Ronda Rousey still could draw in a co-main event. You know?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Good question,
Rich. Yeah, thank you, Richard. Thanks for the question. The next one is by Giovanni Carvajal. Giovanni, we know him as Gio, writes down great info, guys, and personal perspectives. Thank you very much, Gio.
Man, Gio.
He also wrote, I have to say I don't care much about the Mayweather and Conor fight. We're gonna explain why this fight, I personally think, is a big win for both boxing and MMA, no matter which way it goes. So.
We'll get into that.
It's a personal opinion.
I think that's something we should get into.
Yeah, it's a personal opinion, but I personally disagree with that. I mean, just to answer his question now, I am excited about seeing GSP fight once again. I always admire his professionalism.
Hands down, bro.
Listen, I agree that's
the end. That's
the last question. Yeah. I do agree that. I mean, who wouldn't want to see GSP come back to the octagon? I mean, he literally left with the title. He has nothing to prove. I don't know why he's coming back. I mean, hopefully it's not financial. It's just for the love of the sport. But he took it away from the octagon for such a long time that coming back, hopefully brings brings the crowd.
Yeah, according to I read an article on him earlier saying that he's mentally ready to, not to say that all the fighters don't usually say this, but he said he's mentally ready to finish all the fights. He said he's find that passion. He wants to hurt people. Unfortunately for this sport, that's the mentality you have to have. Yeah. But GSP is just one of those really good guys, you know what I mean? So is he really going to finish fights and go in with that mentality of, I have to finish fights? And if he is, he's never been that fighter to go in and rush versus somebody, to go for that knockout. So it's going to be interesting. And like I said, I think Michael Bisping is a perfect challenge for him to come back in.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to that. We're also looking forward to seeing him fight. So hopefully we see him soon. No injuries, no steroids. Who knows? Thanks, Gio. We appreciate the question.
Good question, Gio.
And now,
all right. So let's talk about what I was debating whether I want to talk about or not. Just because it's not an MMA fight. So this big deal has come along with this massive, probably the biggest grossing fight ever. And also you mentioned that it's probably the best fight ever in combat sport.
Well,
just with the attention
I wouldn't say the best, right? But I would say it's the one that's going to bring the freaking people to the seats. People paying for pay-per-view. It's going to gross the most out of everything, and it's one of the biggest fights in sports history. That's my personal opinion.
No, and I can see why. I mean, the way the fight is set up, the amount of money that's getting invested into this with promotions, and just the way they're advertising this fight is what it's designed to be. It's going to be the biggest fight in combat sports history, just because the amount of people, like he said, are going to tune in to watch this.
Right.
What is your predictions on this fight, Will?
Damn, that's such a hard question.
I didn't want to answer first, so I threw it on you.
So what do I predict? This could be a toss-up in a sense, right? We're talking about a 12-round fight. It's boxing. It's a stand-up game. You're fighting against the best fighter to ever step in that octagon. Very controversial me saying that, but I really do believe that he's the greatest fighter to stand in that octagon. In that ring. Sorry, Mayweather.
Oh, you kept saying octagon. You talking about the ring. Yeah,
sorry, I apologize. Yeah, in the Mayweather is the best boxer, the best defensive fighter, but we're talking about a guy like McGregor who's the best offensive fighter. The question is MMA technique stance that McGregor brings into this fight, is it going to change Mayweather's flow in the ring, or is he going to adapt to it really quick? With that being said, I believe that McGregor has a better chance of knocking him out within the first or second or third round of that fight, because right after that, the freaking genius that is Mayweather in the ring is going to capture every single move, and he's going to know exactly what you're planning on doing, and he will fucking break you down after that third round, because he has the computer in his head. And from there on, Mayweather will destroy McGregor, and then Mayweather will win by decision. So that's my prediction. I really do see McGregor knocking him out. I really do see that. But I also see Mayweather outboxing the shit out of him. I don't want to get too into details. That's my prediction of the fight. We could talk about techniques because some people must be going crazy. Like McGregor has no chance, but I believe he does.
So,
what do you think?
Okay, first of all, the reason why I feel McGregor does stand a chance versus anyone at this point. I mean, he could have fought. I don't even know. I don't want to throw John Jones' name in there, but I'm saying with anyone at this point, he has a luck and he has the skill power, and he also finds ways to beat people before they even walk into the octagon, right? He has a lot of things going with him because he's proven it over and over and over and over again. Now, not taking away from nothing from Mayweather, because Mayweather, to me, goes down as the best boxer ever. Because he's fought the best towards the ending of his career. He's literally fought the best.
Yeah, even in the beginning, what would they put in front of him?
And he's done it with such class. And some people might like, oh, he's a boring fighter. He's a boring fighter. To me, fighters like him, I should say, I love to watch because it's a chess match. And he's so smart in this chess game that he does not allow himself to get touched.
Yeah.
And no one in the fighting business has a better defensive game plan than Mayweather.
Absolutely.
I've seen McGregor somewhat get into Mayweather's head.
You believe that?
I saw it in a lot of different back and forth on, because and not only that, but because so many people showed love to Conor on the press conference, which was something to behold, bro.
Right,
it's comedy at its best, if you ask me.
I don't want to interrupt you because I did ask you the question, but you have to also understand that that's what every time Floyd Mayweather would step in that ring, everybody was purchased it not because they wanted him to win, it's to see who the fuck is gonna knock him out. Because nobody likes an arrogant dude, and he's won. I'm not saying
that that's correct. I'm saying, well, that had something to do with it, because no matter what anyone says, this has been a little bit different than his other fights. No matter what anyone says.
A different animal.
Yeah, I don't like comparing with other fights because nothing falls under this magnitude of a fight.
Yeah, he's the best promoter.
Yeah.
Both of them are. It's what makes this fight the way.
No, and like I said, I don't want to take nothing away from Mayweather. By the way, I couldn't agree with what you said more. The fight's going to go, if McGregor cannot find a TKO win the first 2 rounds, I don't think third round is going to make sense. The first 2 rounds. And this is why I think Conor is really predicting the first 2-round knockout, is because he doesn't see himself winning if it goes further than this. You're talking about somebody who's, if he cannot crack the Mayweather code in the first 2 rounds, McGregor does not win. And unfortunately for McGregor, no one has been able to figure that out.
No.
But like I said,
but it's funny thing
with
that.
hold on a second. With the energy, with all the gods going for McGregor at this point, because that just seems like what he's been doing to the sport. That's what I think about. I think about he's walked in and fought what we consider to be the best champion in Jose Aldo, and then knocked him out in the first round, less than a minute. Anything is possible. It's 2 different sports, but with McGregor, it seems like everything is possible with this guy. Because he has that aura with him, you know?
Yeah, and we should mention it's going to be with 8-ounce gloves. I don't know who. This is what I love about Mayweather. He has the balls to say put him down to 8-ounce gloves. Mayweather has broken his hands a couple of times. The interesting thing to me as well as this fight, maybe proceeds to 3rd or 4th round, is McGregor has a big head, man. And Mayweather might catch him on the forehead or, even the chin, a good hit. He could break that hand and things could get very interesting, because then you're going to see a Mayweather that runs around, just take a bicycle around, you know what I'm saying? So it's going to be...
That's so interesting. I never did I think about something bad. You're absolutely right. What about something crazy like that would happen where Mayweather would break his hand? I'm saying, what's going to happen?
Right.
So that's very interesting that you say that. Never saw that perspective. But honestly, as much as I'm about MMA, as much as this is an MMA podcast.
Yeah.
Mayweather is going to win this fight if McGregor cannot figure out that code within the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And there is no doubt in my mind, and anybody who's watched the sports of boxing, to say that someone's been able to connect on Mayweather significantly enough to win a fight, which they have hit him, but not significantly enough to win. The difference with him getting hit by someone like Conor is that there's no second hit, because the first hit will land and game is over.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And the reason why let me just get something very straight. A guy that's coming from MMA into boxing makes a lot more sense than a guy that's coming from boxing into MMA. I don't want to make this an MMA versus boxing thing, but it's important to note that. And the reason why I even bring this up is because people don't think that he has any chance, but people have to understand that McGregor has used boxing, has trained for boxing.
He was an amateur boxer.
Right, an amateur boxer who eventually learned a couple of different martial arts, and in the process became a mixed martial artist. With that being said, he started with boxing, so he understands the stand-up game. I'm not saying better than Mayweather.
At all.
But this is why I would say that that makes more sense than McGregor going into MMA. Just Mayweather going to MMA. Those two M's mess me up all the time. But with that being said, I think McGregor's, orthodox fighting can lead to a knockout. And I highly believe that this could happen with 8-ounce gloves. I really do believe that. McGregor has no problem standing in front of you and throwing leather. So hopefully he closes the distance, and freaking Mayweather gets to be a little slower since he hasn't been in the ring for a while and he's much older now. So let's see.
Yeah, and you know what? And right before we end this off, I will say Mayweather. I've heard several times he makes his age somewhat of an excuse going into this fight.
Meanwhile, he looks like fucking an action figure right now. He's in the best shape of his life.
Yeah, he looks phenomenal. But he said this several times. He said, "Listen, I'm at an age where," and he almost said it like, "If I lose, oh well, then I'm an old guy." You gotta give him some credit to that, because it's almost like he's in a win-win situation right now. And the reason why I feel like he's in somewhat of a win-win situation is because if he loses, he still ends up with a ton of money, and this is his last fight. He's gonna retire. And if McGregor is planning on making $100 million for this fight, what the fuck is Mayweather gonna be making?
Yeah, a lot more.
That's.
But I don't think that you have to also understand. You can't just say Mayweather is going there to win the fight.
Oh no, I'm not taking that away.
He's 49. That's the big 50. Everybody wants to hit that 50. He hits 50 wins with 0 losses. He goes out as the greatest fighter ever. He could retire today and he could go as the greatest fighter ever.
I believe that too.
But if he loses this fight, it means so much to his record, so much for his ego.
His legacy.
His legacy is like, they're going to do documentaries on Mayweather, and then there comes this Irish guy and then knocks you out. That's the end of your story. I mean, damn, that means a lot. So I believe that Mayweather has a shitload more riding for him than does McGregor. Because McGregor loses, hey, he has MMA to fall back on. He's still the champion over there. He has nothing to lose.
There's plenty
and
of
guess
fights
what?
for him up.
If he puts up a pretty decent fight, Paul Malignaggi has been fucking calling him out since the beginning. They're going back and forth now. I mean, he could go and decide he wants to go fight Paul.
I would just, if I was McGregor, I'll just take a step back, take a fight in the UFC, make a shitload of money in the UFC. Full Paul Malignaggi early next year. It would be like a Cinderella story for him. You know what I mean?
And he's young enough where he could do that.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. That's what makes someone like him so scary. He's not. McGregor hasn't peaked his prime.
Yeah.
And now we're talking to him as an MMA fighter, Well, in this case, as a fighter as a whole, because he's going to go into full-blown boxing as well. Anyways, guys, this is going to be one of those fights where you have to see, and some people are going to get pissed off because they have to spend $100 to watch this fight on pay-per-view, or some people are going to get pissed off because they're going to go to a bar and they're not going to be able to catch a seat or even stand up in a bar to catch this fight.
Or have to pay a shitload of money to take a seat because now they're charging everybody. So
yeah.
With that being said, it's gonna go down as the greatest fight. I'm looking forward to this. We're coming to you. We're crashing your crib.
I'm telling you right now, man. This is what I want to do. I want to go 20 years from now and press play on this shit and say, I don't give a shit where a podcast takes us, but we just talked about the biggest fight that ever happened, bro.
Well, at least now. Who knows if fuck decides to come? CM Punk might ruin this. But yeah, man, it was. So that's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's the Mayweather versus McGregor breakdown. Again, thank you, Rachel, for the thing. That's gonna our official logo. Fucking dope. Anyways, follow us on Instagram at the Will and Rock Podcast. Follow us on Twitter on the Will and Rock, and catch our YouTube at the Will and Rock Podcast. And comments. Please comment so we could answer some of your questions and like our video.
All right. Thank you, guys. Subscribe to YouTube. Love you guys. Peace.
Thank you.